our opening sequence, we did not use particularly low-key lighting. Instead, we manipulated the colours and tints of each shot, making the colours appear dull. We felt that this manipulation of the colour had the same effect of suspense and mystery as low-key lighting. We did, however, use low-key lighting for the end 20 seconds of our piece. In the barn, the lighting is much darker, particularly at the end when the hand is pushed against the metal door. If the lighting had been high-key, the impact of the slamming hand would not have been the same, and the air of mystery and suspense would not have been as effective had the colours been simply tinted, not darkened. In our piece, we used props such as knives, ropes, blood and flesh to create the eerie, haunting mise-en-scène required for each of our scenes. The props we used have very scary, negative connotations of death and horror, which we intended to insinuate in our piece. The props used in the scene where we see the meat being chopped also helps to identify the character played by Louis as the antagonist, and the audience alienates themselves from him as he handles what appears to be a dead body. Our props therefore work alongside the convention and are genre specific. The costumes which we used in our piece were very simple and fitted in with the farm location that we chose. The neutral black and white which the dead girl wore stood out amongst the green, dirty pond and field, and the white also connoted the innocence of this dead female to the audience. The farmer character was dressed in a dark, greeny-blue barber jacket and sort of typical farming gear, and did not appear at all out of place in the barn. The fact that he fitted into this haunting environment so well suggested to the audience that he was not to be trusted, and his costume assisted in suggesting that. The costumes we chose worked alongside the convention and were successful. The non-diegetic soundtrack which we chose was selected by our group as it sounded eerie and unsettling to each of us. The track plays throughout the whole piece, and at times the pace quickens, which we use to our advantage when our editing pace is quicker, particularly when the girl is running through the woods, and this creates the drama and thrill in our piece. The track works alongside the conventions perfectly and highlights areas where the editing changes and is important to the thrilling narrative of our piece. Our opening sequence followed the typical thriller conventions which are used to build suspense and tension. Our editing is slow to begin with and is intended to unsettle the audience. As the sequence progresses, the editing becomes quicker, just before we see the dead body, and this technique is foreboding, as the audience can tell that this is building up to something. During the end of our opening sequence, the editing becomes slower to emphasise the importance of the meat chopping, and again to unsettle and frighten the audience. Our group used a graphics tablet to create the font we felt best suited the opening sequence we had created, as none of the fonts available to us online seemed quite right. The jagged black text works perfectly with the shots we have placed them over, and they are not intrusive over the shot either. We have conformed to the convention with our titles, as much like the thriller 7, our titles appear on screen briefly, and our font has been created especially for the product.